Hi, my name is Martina Brooks with Troy University. The course is PS6660, Cognitive Psychology. My professor is Dr. Julie Poole, and today's date is May 17, 2025. My chosen topic is cognitive overload in the workplace. The purpose of this review is to examine common workplace stressors and their impact on cognitive overload. The Work and Wellbeing Survey, rebranded as the Work in America Survey in 2023 by the American Psychological Association, or APA, investigates workplace experiences. According to this survey, in 2024, American employees reported an increase in stress levels due to rapid changes occurring in workplaces. These modifications included things like intergenerational workplaces, flexible work shifts such as 4-day work weeks, remote work, and artificial intelligence. Prior to the changes I just mentioned, there were also additional stressors that included unclear expectations within the workforce, increased workload coupled with reduced staffing, and the need to multitask in fast-paced work environments. Each one of those factors has a consequence. Some of those consequences can contribute to things like workplace stress, leading to cognitive overload, such as insomnia, the impaired ability to focus, even depression, according to Safavi and Buzari of 2024. What is needed is an approach that identifies areas of need in individual employees to provide reinforcement within work expectations that are essential for better knowledge retention and reduced stress. Therefore, it's useful to analyze how cognitive overload negatively impacts various aspects of individuals both within and outside of the workplace. The American Psychological Association defines cognitive overload as a situation in which the demands placed on an individual by mental tasks exceed their cognitive capabilities. According to Sewell et al., 2020, cognitive overload is a common phenomenon in the medical field. A study was conducted to have a better understanding of the cognitive load theory, or CLT, which aligns with how working memory functions. The APA summarizes working memory as short-term memory or brief retention of information available in an accessible state for immediate mental use. According to this qualitative study, the focus of CLT was to understand limitations of working memory bandwidth. So when the work environment places high demands on learning and that exceeds working memory capacity, there's a decline in work performance. The study investigated two distinct areas in the medical field. The objective of the two distinct settings were to evaluate how different environments, both characterized by high levels of complexity and risk, might induce cognitive overload. Those areas were a gastrointestinal endoscopy suite and the intensive care unit. The four categories that were consistently identified by the participants of both areas were poor performance, verbal expressions, nonverbal physical actions, and interpersonal interactions with team members. Another factor to consider is technology. As technology continues to advance, workplaces increasingly rely on technological tools for communication and documentation. Employees that are in office settings usually use things like emails, both for internal and external customers. But what we've identified within a study that was conducted by Brown et al. In 2014, they captured a previous study as well that was performed in 1978 by Salincic and Pfeiffer, which highlighted that media could be influenced by supervisor and coworker norms, and it was known as social information processing theory, or SIPT. And basically what that means is that the workplace has leaders that create an expectation, and the coworkers attempt to meet or exceed those expectations. Sometimes that causes stress, and sometimes that also leads to cognitive overload. Another example of this is also called IPT, information processing theory, which compares the human mind to a computer involving input, processing, storage, and output stages. Overload ends up happening when excessive information is received or when processing demands surpass cognitive resources. And a breakdown in communication due to poor quality and high volume, email contributes to a lot of that. One of the things that the study mentioned as well was employees having to respond to emails consistently. Um, Oftentimes they have between 20 to 50 emails that they're having to respond to within a day, which makes up for about 20% of their work output. Additionally, findings suggest that emails have the highest margin of error compared to other forms of communication due to users' false sense of confidence in handling and/or responding to them. Face-to-face and telephone interactions have proven to be more effective than email, according to Brown et al. In 2014. Before we talk about the intervention plan, we should question ourselves, what are the key plans for reducing cognitive overload? Some of those things would be to elevate productivity, to enhance focus, and increase work and personal life balance. The objectives are to identify training gaps, identify trending errors, create a structured training curriculum, provide employees with reference manuals or materials, schedule work performance discussions on a regular basis, create collaborative cultures, block uninterrupted time to decrease multitasking opportunities, and implement AI tools for redundant processes. To reduce cognitive overload in the workplace, it is advisable to optimize information flows and create a cognitively sustainable work environment by offering regular training sessions, performing task analysis to remove unnecessary or redundant processes, and limit the amount of highly complex tasks assigned to employees. To meet the needs of the employees, the following steps are recommended as a 10-point intervention plan. Employees will be given the opportunity to anonymously report tasks for which they require additional training. The quality department or team will document and communicate all recurring errors to the training staff. The training staff will take that information, prioritize it, and create an overview of essential tasks that employees are expected to perform. A living workplace manual will be created and accessible to all employees as a reference guide to address work-related processes. Appraisals will not be limited to a one-time instance. All leaders will have monthly contacts with their employees to ensure employees are aware of their work performance more regularly. Employees will be given a block of uninterrupted time on a daily basis to read and effectively respond to emails. The company will also provide AI tools to help with the efficiency and accuracy of processing emails. They can also do this for other redundant processes, which will lead to reduced time for the employees being spent on responding to work emails and increased productivity in other areas. The company will have designated areas for employees or workspaces and at least one collaborative area for employees to socialize and discuss current knowledge, which will increase employee awareness and interactions. That was taken as an example from Heerwagen et al. 2007. The goal of the company will be to move towards a more collaborative environment, which will enhance learning outcomes as mentioned in a peer-reviewed journal by Pyers et al. In 2020. Finally, the company will ensure that roles are clearly defined. Employees will operate strictly within their designated roles. Any deviation from assigned roles will require mandatory training provided by management before the employee can undertake tasks outside of their trained scope. The targeted population are employees that are occupying demanding roles and information-intensive environments. Those that are expected to frequently switch between multiple tasks, such as leaders, training departments, financial analysts, project managers, and quality teams. Implementation of the 10-step intervention plan will follow a 6-month phased approach. Changes in the workplace should be well planned and intentional while simultaneously being adaptable. I've provided an example of an implementation schedule. What you will see is that the first phase will be to complete and assess the task analysis. This process should take approximately 2 months to ensure that it's detailed and accurate. After completing and assessing the task analysis, the next step, phase 2, is to implement training and communications on new work expectations. Phase 2 should take approximately 3 months. Following training, employees will have designated periods to respond to emails without interruptions and collaborate with peers and leadership to address questions or share information about work experiences, which is phase 3. Phase 3 should take approximately 1 month to implement, and the final phase will involve evaluating changes made and making necessary adjustments. A specific time frame should not be assigned to the evaluation and adaptability for ongoing changes phase. Some of the cognitive principles that were at the forefront of this literature review were John Sweller's cognitive load theory, or CLT, which was discussed earlier regarding work memory bandwidth, and limited capacity principle, which suggests the brain can only hold a limited amount of information at a time. Once our capacity has been exceeded, mental fatigue begins, lowered productivity, and errors in decision making more than likely occurs. In order to identify whether the intervention plan is successful, is to make sure that we have assessments or evaluation strategies. Some of those that would be implemented would be a stress survey, which would be a short questionnaire to assess mental burnout and stress. That would actually be made mandatory to all employees. Another would be reporting from the quality team to identify trending errors and to continue to do that. That will be an ongoing process. Information gathered from the quality team on trending errors will be shared with training, again, to help with training opportunities. Finally, the training team will perform behavior observations for visible confusion or for frustrations. Expected outcomes would be faster completion of work tasks by allowing blocked, uninterrupted time, reduction of errors with more training and work manuals, increase in task accuracy and quality by discontinuing the blurring of job requirements, a decrease in reported cognitive overload, and an increase in work-home life balance, which equates to overall well-being. My reflection of this literature review for part 1 of this project, it really allowed me to familiarize myself with the peer-reviewed journals that I would be using for this project. Part 2 of the project was pulling that information together to offer a deeper look into the outcomes of cognitive overload and how it negatively impacts work performance, but also an individual's well-being. And the negative consequences to that would be things like depression and insomnia. Part 3 of the project offers a high-level review of how cognitive overload is defined, suggestions to limit it in the workplace, and then future opportunities. Cognitive overload in the workplace is a common phenomenon. Many ignore the symptoms of cognitive overload and we believe we're just pushing ourselves. However, after researching this, its impact on our cognition and mental well-being, I now find it important to offer suggestions in the workplace that may prove to be beneficial to all employees while still allowing the company to increase revenue. The suggestions offered in this presentation, such as creating AI or automation tools to increase efficiency and reduce manual errors, was to be beneficial to workplaces. Data analytics provides insights for better decision making. Flexible work arrangements, for example, the blocked uninterrupted time frame to read and respond to emails, are essentially important to the company as well as the employees. And finally, ongoing training is essential to keep up with technological advances.